want to introduce to you Spicamelus afer, which is the oldest ankylosaur and the first from Africa. The specimen is from the Middle Jurassic of Morocco, from a site where we named the stegosaur Adriticlet a couple of years ago. Probably the most unusual thing about this fossil is that it appears to be a dorsal rib, so that's a rib from the back of the animal, but it has an osteoderm, or a piece of armour plate, fused to the dorsal surface, and then 4 spikes protruding from that. Now, this is morphology that we don't see in any living or extinct organism at all. It's T-shaped in cross-section, and we only see T-shaped ribs in stegosaurs and in ankylosaurs. When we histologically sectioned the specimen, we cut it up and we made a thin section and we looked at it down the microscope. We found that it has a tissue type that we only find in ankylosaurs among dinosaurs of this age. And in fact, this is the first record of an ankylosaur from Africa. Now, not only that, it's also the oldest ankylosaur from anywhere in the world. It's intriguing because it suggests that these stegosaurs and ankylosaurs were living alongside each other in these ecosystems as far back as the Middle Jurassic. And also, there's a whole bunch of really, really weird things coming out of this site. So I think that there's a sort of unrealised morphological diversity of ankylosaurs that we have yet to find in the fossil record.
We've described a new theropod dinosaur species. We called it Pendrake milnerae, and it's actually a very interesting animal because it's the oldest known theropod dinosaur, so meat-eating dinosaur from the UK. And it's actually quite a small animal because, contrary to all the famous theropods like the Tyrannosaurus, theropods started out as quite small animals. But even for these early theropod dinosaurs, the one we now discovered is actually very, very small. It's about the size of a chicken, more or less. It was discovered in Wales, somewhere northwest of Cardiff, and it was actually already discovered in the 1950s in a quarry where 2 paleontologists were prospecting. And for a very long time it's been in our collections here at the NHM, but it was never formally published. And now we had the opportunity, after it was lost in the collection for a little bit, or it could not be recovered in the collection for a little bit, we had the opportunity now to really formally describe it and name it for the first time. And the species name milnerae is named after Angela Milner, who worked for a very long time in this museum and made a number of very important discoveries, such as the discovery of Baryonyx, another meat-eating dinosaur, and she sadly passed away very recently. But she's also attached to this species in particular because I mentioned earlier that this specimen was lost in the collection for a while, and it was actually Angela who managed to rediscover it. So when my supervisor Susie asked or was wondering where the specimen was because it couldn't be found, Angela said, "Oh, I think I might have seen it." And then she went down into the collections, and 3 hours later she came out with the specimen, which was displaced somewhere in a shelf.
The Isle of Wight is one of Europe's hotspots for dinosaur fossils, and we find many different types of dinosaur on the island, but the fossil record has been dominated by 2 Iguanodontians. So these are herbivorous dinosaurs with the iconic thumb spikes. And over the last century, really everything has been put down as being either this big robust animal, Iguanodon bernisartensis, or the smaller but still quite hefty animal Mantellisaurus atherfieldensis, which is on exhibition in the museum. And it was always seems to be the wisdom that only these 2 sort of survived for maybe 6 million years or more without changing, and this caused quite a bit of doubts to us, so we thought we'd re-evaluate all the material. And we were sort of quickly surprised to find this new animal, which had been missed. It was in a museum for over 40 years, but in storage. And so we sort of started looking at this very closely. It had quite a lot of teeth, more teeth than Mantellisaurus, which was an indicator that it might be something different. But for me, the really exciting bit was the nose. It was locked down, and I went in there as soon as I could, and we're trying to reconstruct the skull, so I put it into a life position, and I sort of noticed really for the first time that this was a bulbous nose. So this really made it sort of stand out, because Mantellisaurus and Iguanodon have both got very straight noses. So we were pretty sure at this stage that we'd definitely got a new species. So this is a really interesting point now, because we've sort of broken that mould of just the two and said there are more out there. So we're still going through this. There's vast collections. I mean, they've been collected for nearly 200 years, so a huge amount of material. We can see some here that was collected from the island by William Fox, so this would have been about 1860. So now it's a really good time to start going through all this material bit by bit, but we're very hopeful that there may be other taxa that are actually hiding amongst all these bones. I was down on the beach on the Isle of Wight one day looking for fossils when someone else who was collecting suddenly started shouting and was obviously very excited, and picked up the snout or rostrum of a meat-eating dinosaur with sort of large teeth coming out of it. I mean, these are incredibly rare. This is probably something that happens every 100 years, and yet this person the following week found a second rostrum, which meant we knew we got two of these animals lying around. So I spent several weeks, months even, going back to the space, and I turned up there one day and I found a hole. And I thought, oh no, someone has been here just before me and obviously found something, and I bet it's more of that skull. So luckily I found out that it was a chap called Brian Foster, who's a collector from Yorkshire, and he was very happy to donate this to the museum, and it actually turned out to be the brain case of this dinosaur, which sort of fitted with the skull. So we sort of realised that we got two now new spinosaurids. Lots of other collectors had found other bits, and they were handing them into the museum. So we were able to build up a 3-foot long skull with all these teeth, and actually show that we had two new species of Spinosaurid on the island.